All right, joining us on the River Islands guest line, Brian Baldinger, presented by our proud partner, Golden State, serving the Bay Area for 3 generations. Building better starts with Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit GoldenStateLumber.com. Baldy, good morning to you. And, you know, a lot of Niner fans are just kind of ho-hum about the win over the Chicago Bears. We don't know how to, we don't know what to do about that win, but they do play the Rams on Thursday. They still have an outside chance at winning the division title, albeit being very challenging due to their schedule and record in the division. But let's start with Deebo Samuel, because he was on Twitter yesterday, and Twitter can never be a good thing when you're struggling as a football team. And Deebo basically tweeted, I don't know if you saw it, Baldy, but he's basically tweeted saying, I'm not struggling, I'm just not getting the ball enough. And then later on saying, I'm not trying to hate on my teammates, I'm just being for real. Come on, be for real. So you tell us, you watch the film, he's got 85 receiving yards over the last 4 weeks on 11 catches. Is Deebo not getting the ball enough, or is he getting off a press man? What's going on with Deebo Samuel? Because according to him, he's just not getting the ball.
Well, he's not getting the ball, but, last week, obviously, they made a concerted effort to get the ball to George Kittle. George Kittle was a little icy after the game in the loss the week before. That sort of got Kyle Shanahan's attention. I said on the show last week, I could draw up 5 plays to get George Kittle the ball. And they used all 5 plays, exactly the way you would want it. Like, you do the same thing with Deebo. If you want to make it so that he gets the ball, you can do that like they did Jamar Chase last night. First play of the game, put him in the backfield and throw it to him. First run of the game, hand it off to him on a fly sweep. If you want to get him the ball, you could get him the ball. And if that feels like that's going to make him happy and make the team better, then you should probably do that. But I don't know that, we have seen him with the ball in his hands this year. He's not been a dynamic player like we're used to seeing from him. I mean, was it just 2 years ago that he led the league in, yards after the catch? Like, we're not seeing that right now.
So, are you seeing a physical depreciation from Deebo, if you were speculating based on film and whatnot? Or is this a schematics thing? Like, what's the bigger issue?
I don't know if they, I think he's the same speed he's always been. He's never been a burner until he gets going. And once he gets going, he runs away from people. But it's not like he's got the fastest first step or the best quickness or anything like that. He's very tough and he's very strong. He breaks tackles. But, like all these guys, the more you feed them, the better they look. And if you're not feeding them and you're not finding them, then you find flaws, you find deficiencies. We've said this for years about Kittle. Like, why can't they get him the ball? Well, it's the same thing with Deebo. Like, if you want to make the effort to get him the ball, maybe get away from the offense a little bit, you could do it. But, they're winning 24-0 last week. It's time to melt the clock. Run the ball, run Durendo, run Taylor, like, run it. Like, there's no point. Like, they even finished the game with the starters last week.
Yeah.
They had a chance to put younger guys in, guys that don't play a lot. Like, that doesn't happen in the NFL very often. But, like, the game dictates what happens to a player. 24-0, let's just run it and get out of here and get the win and get ready for Thursday night.
Well, Baldy, does that sit well with you as a teammate when the next day or even the postgame we saw A.J. Brown kind of, critique his quarterback? We've seen Deebo critique the amount of touches. Like, that would bug me in a win. Like, that would bug me as a teammate. Would it bug you?
Well, yeah, it would bug me. But here's the thing. Now, forget about my thoughts. Like, honestly, these receivers that do this, and I'm taking a shot here at Deebo, but honestly, nobody wins the Super Bowl because of the receivers. Nobody. They help you, but you win the game because of your quarterback and your defense. Your quarterback helps the receivers. But T.O., Randy Moss, you go through the list of great receivers that we've seen in this league. They don't win Super Bowls. The Eagles won a Super Bowl 7 years ago. They didn't have a receiver that had 1,000 yards receiving. They didn't have a running back that had 1,000 yards, but they were a great team. So you winning 24-0 for the first time, you got a lead last week. And you couldn't win a game for a month. Just take the win. Take the win. Thursday night, national TV, you got the Rams. They beat you earlier this year. Go do something to help win the game against the Rams. Throw a block for Durendo that springs them. Just do the little things. The ball will come your way when you start winning games and you hold on to the ball and you're getting a number of possessions and you're taking care of it. The ball will come your way. The offense is made to be spread around. And so that's what I would tell. I would tell any receiver. Jamar Chase is having an all-world season. They're not going anywhere. Yep. So who cares? Like, honestly, like, you're right here on the precipice of knocking yourself right out of these playoff hunt. But you got to keep winning. The only way you're going to do is winning. And, like, really drawing attention to yourself at this point, the season you're having, which is a disappointment for everybody, coming off a Super Bowl loss in overtime. Like, honestly, just go to work and do everything you can to help everybody out. That's what I would do, and that's what I would say.
It's pretty disappointing to see the tweets because I personally try to stay off of Twitter more so nowadays because it's just toxic. It doesn't help anybody. And to see that, I don't know why you play that sound. Seriously, I don't know. I don't get why Deebo tweeted those streaks out. So a common response out here in the Bay Area about Sunday's game. A lot of people weren't fired up about the win. I was one of them. It's just like, hey, it's just the Bears. Mm-hmm. Is that fair? Yeah. Is that fair to say, it's just the Bears, whatever?
It's not fair. I mean, that was an interim head coach that's auditioning for a head coaching job. Like, he thought he had the team ready to play. Now, they didn't play well at all. I mean, you sacked Caleb Williams 4 straight third downs in a row. Like, the ball just kept, and it just, the sinkhole just got deeper and deeper for the Bears. So I wouldn't say that. Like, the 49ers took the fight to him. Garendo had a great game. Like, he's a talent. And the offensive line, you lose Barch early. You're down to your third team left guard. Those guys played their butts off up front. It's probably Jalen Moore's best game he's ever played. So you won a game, without Trent, without some of your stars, and that hadn't happened in a while. So I think there's enough to, you saw a defensive line get active. We haven't seen Yetur Gross-Matos do anything in this all year. Like, he had himself a great game, back-to-back sacks. No, I think it's important. Like, you getting back on the winning track feels good. Practice feels better. It's a short week. What's coming to town. Stafford was all-world last week. They got their hands full. When he's playing like he played last week against Buffalo, you better be you got to be able to score some points because they're going to put some up.
Before we get to the Rams and move forward with this matchup on Thursday, it's a monster matchup at Levi Stadium. Just give me your overall thoughts on Caleb Williams during this rookie season. Is some of the sacks on him? Is he holding on to the ball too long? Is he seeing it? How would you assess Caleb Williams during his rookie season as a number 1 overall pick?
I feel sorry for the kid. I do. I mean, you fired the offense coordinator. You fired the head coach. He doesn't have a great offense line in front of him. He's trying, can he play better? He can play better. He was under siege all day yesterday or on Sunday. The receiving core is good. I think Roma Dunze is the best, but they struggle in a lot of areas. But there's just for example, if you see what Sam Darnold's doing right now, a big part of Sam Darnold's really excellence this year is what he learned in San Francisco last year. Like, he saw what stability looks like. He saw what game planning is all about. He saw what, when you have the best left tackle in football, can do to your quarterback and the confidence it gives him. Like, he learned all that. Now he's taking it in a really, really bright offensive mind in Kevin O'Connell. And so the point is, the quarterback, and I was talking to Daniel Jones about this on the sideline the other day, because he's never had that in New York. Like, a quarterback's got to be in a stable place. He needs help around him. You need a lot of things to go well for your quarterback to play well. Like, C.J. Stroud's not having the same year he had last year. But nobody commits more penalties than the Houston Texans. And they lost, some receivers. They lost Nico for a while. They lost Mixon. And all of a sudden, he's not playing as well. So to criticize Caleb, I think I've seen some all-world talent from him, some all-world great throws. You don't see anything on a consistent basis because the players around him aren't very good, and there's no stability in the organization.
Yeah, I had a difficult time making any evaluation on him. I just thought that everything around him looked terrible. Back to the Niners. George Kittle, you referenced it. We referenced it. It just felt like, to me, where has this been? I wanted to see him get prioritized. You're talking about Jamar Chase. It's a priority to get him the ball. A lot of the great playmakers, the final play for Kansas City, we all knew it's going to Kelsey. Somehow, some way, it's going to Kelsey. I got a beautiful screen on the first drive. I've got a beautiful George Kittle.
Fourth play of the game, Joe. Fourth play of the game. The tight end screen.
It was beautiful. The Kittle tunnel screen later. Kittle immediately right after. Then they get the Juwan Jennings slant on the touchdown. Then a Kittle crosser. the whole first half felt, and Jennings as well, but it felt very Kittle-oriented. We are going to prioritize him. And I'm just left going, why am I not seeing more of this? And I'm almost frustrated by it. And I don't know if that's fair or not.
No, it's totally fair, Joe. Like, honestly, I played tight end before, I blew out my knee and gained a bunch of weight and moved the offensive line. But, like, I could tell you, like, that tight end screen, everybody runs that play. I mean, you just got to call it. The tunnel screen, like it's just a middle screen setup. Like, they're easy. They're actually easy, to get the tight end the ball. Because most teams, if you're in man coverage, all right, Kittle's going to beat man coverage. If he's up on the line of scrimmage, he's going to beat him off the line of scrimmage. And then, after the catch, he's as good as anybody in this business after the catch. Anybody, receiver or tight end. And so you get him on the move like that. Like I said on my one breakdown of him, like there's three certainties in life. That there's death, there's taxes, and Kittle's not going out of bounds. He's always going to draw a little bit of blood. That's how he was raised. That's how he was coached. He's not going out of bounds. And so he's an energizer. And they should do the same thing this week to the Rams.
I agree. We're talking about the Super Bowls where George Kittle gets 3 or 4 targets. Even Sunday, I get it. They got a 24-0 lead, but 6 targets. He catches 6 balls for 151. I need 8 to 10. I see David Njoku in Cleveland getting all the targets from Famous Jameis. We see Kelsey every single week. It's criminal how underused in the passing game George Kittle is. But moving forward here, Brock Purdy. I thought he had an excellent game on Sunday. He was on fire. He was on point. But there was a couple misconnections. And one, we want to figure out what's going on with Ricky Pearsall. Because we touched on it last week where he had 63 targets in the previous 3 games. He had no catches on 3 targets. What do you see from the young man? What did you see from the young man on Sunday? Because we know Purdy was excellent. There's the misconnection on the deep ball there where Pearsall looked open. Purdy took accountability for it, but I don't know, Baldy. What do you see from Ricky Pearsall, the first-round pick out of Florida?
Not much. I mean, they only threw it 25 times, and so, 6 are going to Kittle and, 7 or 8 are going to Juwan just because of his size alone, and he's dependable. And so now you're spreading around to Garendo and Pearsall and Deebo. Like, there's just not a whole lot of targets there in that type of a game last week. But, you're not seeing any sort of priority where he's, okay, this is the progression. It starts with Ricky, and it goes like that. That wasn't really there. So, Brock is going to throw it to the open guy, and wherever that is. And he's got a backup, left side of the offensive line in there right now. Like, he's going to prioritize getting the ball out quick, and whoever's open, whether it's the progression or what he sees, that's where he's going to go right now. But I would say that connection needs a lot of work right now.
What about Purdy's arm, shoulder? Couple underthrows. I mean, he completed the pass, so this feels foolish for me to break this down. But as you're watching it, are you seeing anything that maybe, I don't know, concern, or maybe he doesn't look 100%?
I don't see anything like that, Joe. Normally, when a guy is battling any kind of an injury, you can see, like, after he makes a throw or getting up off the ground or whatever it might be, you can see some kind of adjustment or grabbing something. You don't see anything like that would hint that something isn't right. That he's never going to have Matt Stafford's arm, okay? That's okay. Like, he's got an accurate arm. That's more important. But there's only a couple of Staffords in this business that have that type of a slingshot, So we're never going to confuse him with that. But still, he's got more. Joe Montana didn't have that either. But we all know what Joe did. So, like, I think it looks fine to me. It looks like nothing has lingered from that 1 week.
Stafford looks like he's on fire. You mentioned him earlier in this interview, Baldy, and Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. I mean, this Puka kid made just unbelievable play after play against Buffalo. And just with the Rams coming into town, they look like they're headed for one of those late season surges. Impressive win last night, even though they gave him 42 points. Josh Allen was remarkable. But Puka Nacua, man, who does he remind you of?
I guess he's a bigger Wes Welker. Like, he just has unbelievable quickness. He can see, he's always open, and you can't get the ball to him enough. Like, look at if you want to defeat the Rams, you have to defeat their quick game. Their quick game is ridiculous. That means watching Hufanga come back in. That was nice to see. Like he looked a little bit like Talanoa last week. Mustafa right there. Like, you've got to defeat wide receiver blocks. If you let those guys shield you, get up on you, Nakua and Cooper Kupp, they'll throw 10 of those in this game on Thursday night. Like, you got to defeat that at the point of attack. It's got to be a high priority, because if you let either one of those guys get going, they run right through arm tackles.
Yeah. How does the Niners secondary look right now? Charvarius obviously returning to form, everything that's been going on. Domino Lenore coming back. It was nice to see him make a play. But that young secondary for the safeties, with Talanoa returning, Tig Brown at times not on the field. Malik Mustafa got the wind knocked out of him or got hit in the neck or whatever. How's that secondary looking? This is probably the toughest test they've faced in weeks.
Yeah, because if you just think that Nakua and Cooper Kupp are going to beat you, Demarcus Robinson's beating everybody all year long. Like, when both those guys were hurt, he's the go-to guy, and you can never, and Kyron Williams is just a great football player, just a great player. So, he can beat you in a lot of different ways, that guy. He's a fantastic player. But, like, just Demarcus Robinson and Tutu Atwell, like, one thing that Stafford does, which is really, maybe Burrow does this a little bit, but not that much. Like, he'll just throw the ball to a spot, and he'll just trust his receivers are going to go get it. And it's the darndest thing to watch, because these guys aren't even close to being out of their break, and the ball's going to a spot. And Stafford and those guys, Kupp, Robinson, and Nakua, their adjustment to the ball in the air is ridiculous. It's really something special to watch. Nobody else throws with that level of anticipation in this whole league right now. So that's just something to watch as a fan. But I watch it every week in the film room, and it's like, you just don't know. You just don't see how he sees it so fast, where these guys are going to be.
No, they're in sync. Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, he's not getting touched. They're throwing for a bunch of yards here. Kyron Williams running tough. Blake Crum's involved in the game plan, the rookie out of Michigan. But defensively, what's the best way to attack this defense, the LA Rams defense? And a lot of people don't know about it. They got the two young rookies from Florida State. But other than that, not a lot of people know about this Rams defense. Baldy, break it down for us. How the Niners are going to attack this defense?
Jared Verse could easily be, the rookie of the year. I mean, that guy plays so hard, number 8. You see him, if you put a tight end on this kid, he's going to abuse him. I don't care, run blocking, pass blocking. No, he's physical. Fisk is a ridiculous athlete with a great motor. You look at Kobe Turner, had 7 sacks last year as a rookie. Like, he's a really good, he wins one-on-ones. Like, him and Purdy inside is going to be fun to watch. I would say the weakness is probably their corners. Like, you watch, the safeties are good. I always like Cam Curl. He was in Washington, a rookie in Washington. He's a good football player. Cam Kitchens has been the defensive rookie of the week, or defensive player of the week twice this year, one on a 100-yard interception return. They've got a young defense, very young, but they play really hard. Josh Allen was just Josh Allen last week. That's all you could say. Like, he was just, no, he's just the MVP. Like, there's no other talent like him in this league. And so that's how they put up the 42. Like, he just kept slinging it. But I'd say that this defense can only get better, because they've drafted the right guys. They've got a really good young core of players. Byron Young, you just go through all these guys. They're really talented, and they play the game the right way.
So they lose CMC for the whole year, basically. Lost Elijah Mitchell in training camp. Jordan Mason was running it like crazy. Everybody's running it like crazy on this team. He goes down. Now he's probably out for the rest of the year. And then you get Isaac Arenda, who I thought looked spectacular. I thought the little passing angle route where it turned into like a crosser was just a gorgeous play design. He has great hands. I thought his eyes were great, and he was figuring out how to run in this system. And then he goes down. How big of a loss is this? And just overall, their ability to plug and play at the running back spot, I mean, are they going to feel it on Thursday?
Yeah. Yeah, eventually you feel it. I mean, even that crosser that you talked about out of the backfield, now that's a McCaffrey play, but it's a choice route, and he just saw a zone, and he saw an opening, he just kept going. Like, normally you sit down the middle on a Texas route, but I think he just saw it and just kept going. Like, he read it properly. That's not easy to do. He got one-on-one, with Sanborn down the stretch, down the seam, Purdy fed it to him perfectly. I don't know if they have another guy right now that can play like that. It's the next man up, but they've had 3 step up and all play great. And, they're still trying to replace McCaffrey, but Mason, Garendo, they were great. I don't know if they have another guy that can play like that.
Well, we know Juwan Jennings is playing out of this world right now. If there's a positive moving forward, the Niners give out this award called the Lynn Eshmon Award for most inspirational. Juwan Jennings, what a season he's having to become the 49ers' top wide receiver, man. We can't go through this interview without bringing up Juwan Jennings, man. He plays. If there's anybody who wants it, this guy's played like he's wanted it every single week he's been on the football field, Baldy.
He's unreal. I remember talking to Jimmy Garoppolo about him one day. I'm like, what? Because I was just trying to figure out who he was and who he reminded of. I remember Jimmy just telling me, well, he's not very fast. He's not really quick. But, dang, he gets open. And that's kind of him. Like, he's got a big body. He plays the game the right way. He can separate a little bit. He's a great blocker. Great blocker. He really is talented in that department. And as you have to be to play in that system. But he's just the ultimate team player right now. Team player and dependable. Like, every team. I remember, like, when Michael Thomas was in New Orleans with Drew Brees, and his Twitter handle was, "You can't guard Mike."
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like that's a little bit like Juwan. Like, you can't guard Juwan. He's always open. He just knows how to attack the football. Like, he's aggressive to the ball in the air. And that's a good I think that's a good quality to have.
He's got that box out, he's not this player, but very similar to Anquan Boldin, where he used to just vice grip the ball in traffic, and I was just so impressed with him. One thing that is going to get lost in the win, and you're winning that by a lot, the kicking game. I know there's new rules. I know people are trying things out. Jake Moody didn't even get it to the appropriate distance twice in this game on kickoffs. I don't know what to make of like the snow game. Like, I just kind of throw it to the side. It's really difficult to kick. He hasn't been great this year. I don't understand exactly what's going on. Is this an issue? Is this a problem? What's going on with Jake Moody, the kicker?
Well, it's a nightmare for any defensive coordinator when the offense is starting at the 40. It's a nightmare. Like, they've talked about it all preseason. Every coordinator I talked to, they said the same thing. Like, who wants to start on defense at the 40-yard line? So these kickers, like, they're honestly, they should never buy a home. I don't care what their name is. Like, you should never feel like you have security. That's kind of how all their careers go. You look at guys like Graham Gano, whatever, like, they're just on a carousel. They just get on the next bus, they go to the next stop, because they all lose their stroke at some point for whatever reason. It could be injury, it could be in their head, it could be I don't know, just how they are perceived by the front office. Whatever. Like, there's not too many that basically, you watch Justin Tucker just fall apart right now. He's been the best in the history of this whole game. He's fallen apart. Like, it just happens to these guys. And you got to have the next guy up and ready to go. You never know when they're just going to lose it and when you might have to move on from them.
Jake Elliott in Philadelphia, man. They're ready. Justin Tucker struggling, man. What a nightmare for kickers around the league. Baldy, where are you going to be at this weekend? Hopefully not in Minnesota. You've been there back-to-back weeks.
No, I'm taking a break. I'm going out to L.A. I'm going to see the Harbaugh and the Chargers against the Bucs this weekend. Two teams battling for playoff spots here, so it should be pretty fun.
I love Derwin James, Baldy. I love him.
Yeah, I
wanted the Niners to draft him over McGlinchey. I did the draft show. I love watching him play.
So in that draft, Joe, you'll remember this. There was two safeties. There was Minka and there was Derwin. They remember, like, it was like, how could you go wrong? It was sort of like that. And I remember, Minka gets drafted by the Dolphins, and they can't really figure out how to use him. They got him in the slot. He's a nickel, and they traded him. I forget who the GM was. And as soon as he got to Pittsburgh, his first game was against the 49ers.
Yeah, I remember that.
He had two takeaways in that game.
Yep.
I'm like, Minka's a Steeler. That's what it is. He's a Steeler. And both those guys, first of all, the game is unbelievably important to both those guys. They're both if you're doing a 4-hour radio show, Joe, you'd want Derwin or Minka sitting right next to you talking football. Like, you wouldn't get enough. Like, they love it. They love talking about it, playing about it. They love their teammates. Like, it's just their credit. Both of them are credit to the game.
Yeah, no doubt. Chris Greer, GM of the Miami Dolphins there. And the Bucs, man, they got my boy Bucky Irvin, who left the game last week with a back injury. But I like this Tampa Bay team, man. Baker's scrappy. Bucky Irvin's running hard. Mike Evans is back. Tampa's going to steal that division in the AFC South, Baldy.
I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, unless Atlanta goes to Michael Penix Jr., like they're not going to win that division because I've seen enough of Kirk Cousins here. Yeah. Like his arm is dying on him, like it does to all old quarterbacks. It's literally dying. But I picked Tampa to win that division earlier this year. Like Todd Bowles is just a good coach, and they've got a toughness about that team. They're like everybody else. They've had a ton of injuries, lost guys. You know, you lose, Godwin and Evans for 3 straight weeks. You lose your 1 and 2. Like that's tough to overcome. But they got rookies. Jalen McMillan stepped up from Oregon last week. Like he looked really good, or from Washington, I should say. Washington.
Yeah, Washington. Yep.
Washington. Yeah, he was there with Rome. Yeah, no, I think they're going to win. Like, this is going to be a good game. They got to win this game.
No, that's a really good game, Baldy. It's a hell of a game down at SoFi Stadium, Tampa Bay and the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh and company. All right, Baldy, man, we'll talk to you next week as the Niners take on the Rams. Good stuff as always.